Good evening. You're attending a session of the City of Jacksonville Beach's Board of Adjustments. Can we have a roll call vote, please? Or a roll call?
John Moreland, Owen Curley,
Here.
Jeff Trular, Jennifer Williams,
Here.
Matt Metz,
Here.
Laura Tierney, Douglas Dell.
Here. Okay, the Board of Adjustments are quasi-judicial in nature. All decisions of the board will be based on competent, substantial evidence, including testimony provided in this meeting. Any person who is not an applicant or agent that wishes to speak will need to fill out a speaker's card located at the side table by the door and turn them into the clerk. Each member of the public will be given 3 minutes to speak on each item. Please refrain from speaking from the audience, and applause or cheering will not be allowed. Please silence your cell phone. Okay, hopefully everybody's had a chance to review the minutes for March 18th and April 15th. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve the minutes as outlined in the notes for March 18th and April 15th.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call vote on that, please? Or actually, we just have a voice vote. All in favor of approving the 2 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed? All right, it's been passed. Any correspondence?
Just what was provided at the days.
Okay. Seeing that there's no old business, let's go to new business. And would you call the first?
Before we call the first case, do you want to let everyone know that we only have 4 members tonight? Just so that we only have to say it once and we don't have to say it 6 times.
Oh, that's right. It's good. Yeah, we have only 4 members tonight. Normally, we have 5 voting members, and we just have 4. Based on that, if you would like to defer your case, your petition for a variance, you can do so when your variance is called.
All right. Board calls case number BOA 25-100020. Property address 2007 South First Street. Motion to consider 31615 Echo 1 Charlie 1 for a front yard setback of 10 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum. 34-615 Echo 1 Charlie 3 for a rear yard setback of 5 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum. 34-615 Echo 1 Echo for a lot coverage of 70% in lieu of 45% maximum. 34-615 Echo 1 Foxtrot for 71% lot coverage in lieu of 60% maximum, all for construction of 2 new urban single-family dwellings located on 2 non-conforming lots of record located at property address 2007 South First Street.
Okay, before we begin, does any board member have any ex parte communication?
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none. And I've had none. Would the applicant please come forward to be sworn in and give their presentation?
If you'll just hit that red button on the mic to turn it on. Thank you. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Michael Sittner. My address is 1 Independent Drive, Suite 1200, Jacksonville, Florida, 32202.
Good, sir.
This is a variance application to provide for a lot split to 2 historic lots of record. So in other words, the lot you're seeing, it's 1 current lot, but it's composed of 2 historic lots. The zoning allows currently, without any variances, would allow for 2 multifamily units. So instead of doing 2 multifamily units, my client would like to subdivide the property to its historic lots and provide 2 detached single-family lots. If you want to go back to the satellite image, thank you. If you want to go, this is, I think, the best picture to show the consistency of what we're asking to do compared to the surrounding development. If you look at the lots immediately to the west, the equal size lot to the east is actually divided into 3 lots instead of 2, 1 being a duplex, and then there's a single family. And then likewise, the two lots to our south, it's two single family lots, but our lot is larger than those two. And then if you look directly east, it's a similar sized block, but instead of having 4 units or 6 units like what we're proposing, it's actually 8 townhomes. So what we're proposing is consistent with the immediate block and the surrounding blocks as well. The variances are really asking to build more marketable units. The historic lots are somewhat small and site constrained, and understanding today's market and what buyers are looking for, we're looking to build a detached single family product that meets modern consumer demands. And with that, I'm happy to stand by for questions. Thank you.
So I understand it right now that historically it was 2 lots. And then it was combined into 1 lot, and that's the way it is right now, is 1 lot.
That's correct.
And then you're proposing to split these back into 2 separate lots.
Correct, to the historic lots.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry, is there an existing structure there now?
Yes, sir. There's an original, it's a small bungalow built in 1938.
Okay. And that's going to be torn down, and then you're going to put in the next.
Yes, sir.
Thing, right. Is there anything that you could put in there without splitting the 2 lots that would meet the current land development code?
To the chair, that would be it. We could do a single family or a multifamily development based on lot sizes.
So I was looking at RM2, and under the new land development code, the maximum footage for a 3,500 square foot lot is 45%, which is 1,575 square feet. And yours looks like you're asking for 1,820 square feet. So can you explain why? Could you not do a property that's 1,575?
Through the chair to Commissioner Williams, we're looking to build based on consumer demand.
The hardship that you're facing in developing on this lot is as 2 separate plats. It does not meet the minimum size, so you're looking for exceptions on setbacks as well as coverage. Is there any other hardship that we should be looking at when we consider the setbacks or coverage outside of just the size of the lot itself?
Through the chair, that's what we're asking for relief. Nothing else. Everything else will meet code.
I don't have any further questions.
No further questions? Okay, do we have any speakers cards?
We do.
Go ahead, setbacks, sir.
We have 2 speakers cards, and we also have received an online submission through the Planning Commission. So the first speaker card is Janelle Wilson, address 2104 South Ocean Front. Says do not wish to speak, but lists oppose. Sorry. The second speaker's card is Michael Sittner. Okay. So those are the speaker cards that we have. So the one that did not wish to speak, again, did oppose, address 2014 South Ocean Front, named Janelle Wilson. We also received from the Planning Division through an online submission, the same Janelle Wilson listed opposed to the requested variance for the property located at 2007 South First Street.
Sir, would you like to come back up and address any of the issues that you may have perceived to be raised by the objections?
Other than we could do by right today 2 multifamily units and we would meet all the rules, we think single family would better fit the development. And if we look at the satellite, if we can pull the satellite back up, there's actually the neighboring lots are also right on the line. So our requested setbacks, like if you look at the duplex immediately east on the northeast corner of the block, it's actually looks like it's encroaching onto our lot. So the tight setbacks is actually really consistent in our actual block. And I stand behind the staff report, which recommends approval and finds that we meet all the criteria. With that, I'll stand by for more questions. Thank you.
Could you speak to your comment that you could do 2 multifamily? Is that without any variance to the land development
Yeah.
code? Are the setback requirements different there?
That's-
What's the interpretation of that?
That's correct. So the minimum square footage for a lot for two multifamily units is 5,000 square feet. Our lot is 5,200 square feet, and so we could, theoretically build a multifamily, a duplex, essentially a multifamily unit with 2 units, and meet the minimum lot area requirements.
And that would be if you just left the lots together and not redivided them.
That's correct. So it's kind of a funny zoning code rule where we could do 2 multifamily units, but we can't subdivide without having some issues on the setbacks.
I don't think I saw that in staff notes in terms of what the requirements are. So to look at this, I would either take some time to review the land development code myself or ask if you can speak to, if staff wants to speak to the different requirements around side yard setbacks, front yard setbacks, rear yard setbacks, lot coverage for the multifamily consideration of
I have it here.
what that would be.
So the front yard is 20 feet, side yard is 5 feet from each side. The side yard, well, there's in a corner, so 5 yard from each side and 20 feet from the rear.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, if there are no further questions, and there's no further speakers, I'll close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 25-1000025 based on the testimony and substantial.
2-0, sorry.
2-0, sorry.
This is 2-0.
That's the exact thing you warned me about. Based on the testimony and substantial competent evidence provided, the request has met all standards for a variance outlined in section 34-572 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
I don't think it's relevant what he can do otherwise. I think what's relevant is what he's asking for today. And so my biggest issue is the 70% of the lot coverage, which, like I said, under the current land development code, that would be 1,575 square feet. What he's asking is greater than that. It's 1,820 square feet. So anybody could expect to build a property for 1,575 per the new land development code. So
I keep going back to this, now that we have this new land development code and we're trying to implement it, the condition still exists for conditions or circumstances that do not result from the actions or actions of the applicant. It would not be considered a self-imposed hardship. Here we have one lot that the applicant admits they could build something on without any variance requests, and then, but if they're going to take an action that results in the necessity of a variance request. I understand that, they could build something different there, and that is in accordance with the current land development code, and would not require a variance. But my mind is open. I can be persuaded otherwise, if anybody has any comments for that.
I think by the applicant's testimony, there is a reasonable use for the lot under the code.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jennifer Williams,
no,
Matt Metz,
No,
Douglas Dell,
No, sorry.
Owen Curley.
No. Sir, your request for a variance has been denied.
Respectfully, could we have a motion voted on for a request for denial, please? Thank you.
We just did. Thank you. Can we call the next case?
the board calls case number BOA 25-1000021. Property owner Tuxedo Park Rental LLC. Property address 130 North 8th Avenue. Motions to consider sections 34-615 Echo 3 Charlie 1 for a front yard setback of 1.4 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum. 34-615 Echo 3 Charlie 2 for a westerly yard setback of 4.1 feet and an easterly yard setback of 4.7 feet in lieu of 5 feet minimum per side. 34-615 Echo 3 Charlie 3 for a rear yard setback of 12.6 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum. 34-706.1 for 0 parking spaces at a multifamily dwelling in lieu of 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit requirement, or 4 parking spaces total required to rectify existing nonconformities and for renovation and conversion of a single-family dwelling into a multifamily dwelling.
Okay, before we begin, does anybody, any board members have any ex parte communication?
I've had none.
I've had none.
And I've had none. The applicants, please come forward and be sworn in and give their presentation.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
I do.
Please each state your name and address.
Leonardo Ortiz, 1401 River Place Boulevard, Jacksonville 32207.
Timothy Whalen, 1217 Bellhaven Lane, Ponte Vedra, Florida, 32081.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Let's skip that second. As per, it was addressed under BOA number 25-100021. The request is, and if I may indulge the board to address the satellite overview. The same setback is in order to place or adhere to the property 4 parking spaces on what is now considered the front side of the property, but previously stipulated as of previous owners, it was the back side of the property. And if I may explain, the current main street of that area on 8th Avenue North contains the entrance towards the back side of the property, contradictory to when it was built. The request is to have the setback in order to validate 4 parking spaces that have been used by the property previous owners as part of the property to properly allocate the space and comply with the new code of construction for further improve the current property. This does not apply to extend the property from where it currently stands further outside or backwards. Any questions?
I'm trying to see if I understand what you said, is that the north side of the property, based off of what is being requested, is actually the rear of the property, despite it being what is facing the road?
Correct. And for further clarification, we have provided an exhibit here to present to the board. It's an initial picture, Exhibit 101, if I may.
If you give it to us, it becomes part of the record.
And it needs to go
Correct.
through.
Let's go to the
Yes.
clerk.
My question is when I was reading this, it said renovation. So am I understanding that you're keeping the same footprint? And
We
you're
are-
just looking to address existing nonconformities so you can renovate?
Correct. Yes,
Bring
ma'am.
it up? Okay.
This variance is a conjunction to a previous variance for construction. The one was approved. But in order for us to proceed with the building permit, we have to request a variance to prove the parking as being part of the construction. If I may introduce Exhibit 101 to the record.
One of the variance requests is for 0 parking spaces in lieu of the 4 required. On the satellite image and based on your testimony, it sounds like there will be parking. Can you tell me a little bit more about the need for that variance?
Yes, sir. To the chair, we are addressing the parking spots, and as per Exhibit 101 on your hand at this time, you can see that from the street view towards the house, there is 4 parking spaces, but they are not officially allocated to that property based on the survey that the city upholds. I would like to introduce a copy of the survey, even though it's part of the plan on the right side of your screen, if necessary.
It's up to them.
We think we have it in our
Yeah,
materials.
right there.
What page is it?
That's right there.
Oh, I see the issue.
If I may also address to the fact that this property, it was a joint compound of properties that belonged to the same owner on or about 1998. After that, it seems that for some financial issues, those properties were split and sold at separate lots. That's why the surveys of each one of those lots adjacent to the current property in question are not consistent to the measurements that we have in the current survey code. The survey of the property itself shows this specification, and the changes that have happened around this property has affected the reasoning why there would not be parking in front of the property, but in this case it would be at the back of the property. And the reason why we address that in this consistent manner is because it's written like such as the property description on the property description of the city.
Is that why the front of the house is is that why the front and back of the house descriptions are switched? Is because of it was owned and then I guess modified?
Yes, sir.
That's
That is our understanding based on the records that we have.
So the current parking is in the public easement?
It is considered public easement, yes, ma'am. Correct. If we may address that the public easement, as referred, does not affect or constitute usage of the main street where the property is at, and is also not affecting any of other members or neighbors.
okay. Do any board members have any other questions? Thank you. You could step back, please. Do we have any speakers cards?
Did you want to speak?
Yes.
Oh, I'm
If-
sorry.
if I
Go
may.
ahead. I cut you off.
I would just like to bring to your attention that the property was previously used as a duplex and then was converted back because it was vacant for so long. So it had been used previously.
It's consistent to the request that we're making.
And it's also consistent to where we're proposing to use as parking is consistent with almost every other house on that block and several blocks north and south and east and west.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We do have one speaker card. It's Steve Roberts, address 132 8th Ave.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. Steve Roberts, 132 8th Avenue.
Hello.
Sorry.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Steve Roberts, 132 8th Avenue, Jack's Beach, 32250. Okay. I am the house just to the road, the 132 house. Okay. I was unable to attend the last hearing in February. My wife came and there were a couple of points that were presented to the board, and they left with articles of resolution. How they were going to resolve the issues that she brought up. There were basically three issues that we wanted to discuss and address here. We're very happy for Tim to rebuild this and make it a nice place, but we do have some concerns. I think one of them was alleviated earlier. They're staying within the same footprint. I think I heard that of the house that's there. This setback and additional setbacks or whatever are what is existing today. That's a question.
The applicant will be able to address your questions.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
You know, that, to me,
This is your time to.
yeah, that's a question. If you know that's what it is, I can accept that. Okay. There are two other issues that we talked about. One was a sewer line. I've been there about 13 years. There was a sewer line that serves all three houses. I guess it was put in prior to my time there when one man owned it and he tied everything together. I'm not sure that's going to, I know my neighbor who has now since moved, that's behind me, had sewer back up into his bathtub. He had a lot of problems and issues. We're adding people back into that line again. I'm concerned about that. I'm real concerned about that. Because when he had sewage, the city of Jacksonville Beach paid for those repairs on the unit behind me. I'm in a townhouse, the two units are together. So that's a concern. Nothing that was mentioned in February 10th. So again, an article of resolution. What has happened to resolve that? Or yes or no? Is that a potential problem? I don't know how we operate here. But those issues were brought up back then. The third issue I bring up is the parking, and I apologize. I was very confused at how the parking was explained and the house was turned around and all that stuff. That's all new to me. I've never heard that. But my concern is, like I said, I've been there about 13 years. I was there when they were renting the 5 bedrooms to 5 individual people at a time. Parking was absolutely a nightmare. Okay? They were parking on the grass. A couple of times they had so many people parked there, the fire trucks couldn't get through. That's the shot, 8th Street to the beach, where it's open. That's where the ambulances and the fire trucks go through. So they came up there and took away all the parking. The only place there is any parking is on that side of 2nd Street, and there are 10 positions there. Short of those 10 positions, there's nothing near that area for public parking. So they'll be parking on the grass again. They'll be parking in my driveway again. They'll be parking blocking the fire trucks from coming down the street again. That's a big concern.
Thank you, sir. That's your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have any other speakers cards?
We do not.
And no more further correspondence. Would the applicants like to address the topics that were raised?
We would like to initially address again that the setbacks for the property are to prevail as the property stands. The variance that is requested here is to count parking spot for the easement that is available, not to increase the space. We would like also to address within the same note that the space requested, it is already in use and it has been in use without provoking any type of issues with the neighbors adjacent or the main street. And we would like to introduce to the record further exhibits to support that. We call to the record Exhibit 102 and Exhibit 103. We ask the board to review on the exhibits presented as a way or form to show existing adjacent properties that contains exactly the same amount of lot coverage and amount of easement used for parking spots assigned to the property in discussion. We're not requesting anything that is not a precedent for. We will also like to address the third concern about the sewage issue. We have conducted a request to the PwC and the city sewage personnel, Mr. Griffin. They have addressed that any and all properties within the lots available for usage and in accordance to the building code, they are sustainable by the city's current sewage. We, and I speak as the agent assigned and in behalf of the client present, Mr. Tim Wallen, Tuxedo Park Rental, we cannot create a precedent, and we request the board to address the matter where a singular family home is held responsible, or in this case, a multifamily C+1 address as it is written, can be responsible for the city's responsibilities on sewage. We are more than happy to comply with all requests based on the building code and our required itemized items for the permit of building and construction as we are required by the law, but further outside of the lot in possession of my client, it is impossible for us to concern or basically make it a solution for the main city sewage outside of our hands. Now, my client stand to the same commitment that was addressed in the previous variance, which it was approved with the conditional that we would request for the information from the city sewage personnel. The same was done. The second condition of that variance was addressed for the parking variance, which is the one at discussion today. We would like to address both items on the record.
It was a conditional use.
Second?
It was the conditional use, not variance.
Correct. Conditional use. I rephrase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions based on that?
I'd like to better understand the parking because it's still not clear to me in the images provided relative to the lot lines versus what's existing. How many spaces on the rear of the property are accommodated by what's existing?
Based on the space and it's measured by the survey, we have exactly 35 feet of space adjacent to 20 feet from the city line in the easement, which would accommodate 4 vehicles. And the same theory is presented and supported by Exhibit 101 presented on the record today. If may we please address that as measured and proved. There was some vegetation before in the area. There was a palm tree. There was several palm trees on the adjacent portion of that it was in conjunction with the lot to the east side of the house. Sorry, and the same the client removed through a tree company in order to facilitate that the space was none of the vegetation was affecting other lots, and also to show that the space is available. This vegetation was removed with a vegetation company. It's a tree removal company. That's why the picture on Exhibit 101 reflects the space.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, sir, you could, or both of you could step back, please.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, as there's no more speakers cards and no correspondence, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve BOA 25-1000021 based on the testimony and substantial competent evidence provided. The request has met all standards for a variance outlined in Section 34-572 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Before we go to discussion, I'd like to make an amended motion. I'd like to amend the motion, or I'd like to make a motion to approve BOA 25-1000021 based on testimony and substantial competent evidence, with the contingency that they remain in the current the footprint of the existing structure. Substantial and competent evidence provided by the request has met all standards for a variance outlined in Section 34-572 of the Land Development Code.
Okay, so now we have an amendment. Is it been seconded?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment?
I mean, I think that's how I was reading it, so I agree with you on the I think it looks like it's a renovation, and they're not changing the footprint, so.
I agree. I think it's a good amendment. Okay. Any further discussion on the amendment? So we're now going to vote on the amendment, which is that the variance request will be constrained to the footprint. Okay. Can we have a roll call vote on the amendment, please?
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Matt Metz,
Yes.
Douglas Dell,
Yes.
Owen Curley.
Yes. Okay. So the motion has been amended. Any discussion now on the amended motion?
I think they're staying within the existing footprint of an existing structure. They're bringing it up to date. They're addressing some of the concerns around access to the property. So my main concern was the setbacks, understanding that the rear of the property is in fact where the parking will be located, and that's street facing, and that larger sort of setback in the rear is actually what's facing the community, so it's not going to create as much of a constraint there. And the existing parking meets the 4-space requirement as outlined by the evidence provided. I think it does make the minimum reasonable use of the property available.
Okay, any further discussion?
None.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please? And now, just reminding you that it's on the amended motion.
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Matt Metz,
Yes.
Douglas Dell,
Yes.
Owen Curley.
Yes, your request for a variance has been approved. Can we call the next one, please? Thank you.
Thank you.
Board calls case BOA 25-100022. Property address 1328 North 3rd Street. Motions to consider sections 34-617 Echo 3 Alpha for front yard setback of 4.6 feet in lieu of 10 feet minimum. 34-707 for a reduction of required off-street parking to 0 in lieu of 14.33 spaces required to rectify existing nonconformities.
Okay, before we begin, does any board member have any ex parte communication?
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
And I've had none. Applicant, please come forward to be sworn in.
Good evening, Jason Gabriel.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help
I
you
do.
God?
I swear.
Please state your address.
Jason Gabriel with the law firm of Burr Foreman, 50 North Lower Street, Suite 3000. The agent for this item. I also happen to be the son of the LLC that owns the property. And I'm here today with the incoming tenants and operators, Mr. James Mazzell and his lovely wife, Rebecca. My brother happens to be sitting back there too, just keeping an eye on me. Appreciate your time here today. This is a commercial property right at this corner at 13th Street North and 13th Avenue and 3rd Street North. It's within a C1 zoning designated district, so that it certainly allows for the types of uses that have been in there and that are seeking to go in there. For a long time, this building was operated by a successful furniture store, I think some clothing retail as well. It was under Echo Furniture and then another moniker after that. But when that tenant left over a year ago now, the property has been sitting vacant and dark since. We marketed the property and now we have a real good operator that's coming in to utilize the property. The parcel itself is a conforming lot of record from 1936. And the structure that's actually built on it is, I suppose you would define it as a historical structure because it was built in 1946. So the structure and the property layout is from that time. And nothing we're doing here seeks to in any way expand or enlarge the footprint. It stays as is. So the new use that's seeking to go into this property is also a commercial one, but it's called an amusement recreation type commercial use, and it's allowed by right under the current zoning designation. And further, because of the type of appointment invitee nature of the operation that's coming in, it's actually, I would submit, a lesser intense attraction of commercial people that are going to be coming there. It's not open-ended like turnstile, like people just coming and visiting a retail furniture store, clothing store. It's actually by appointment. So it'll be a lesser impact. The new use will be a lesser trafficked one, and thus the parking need for the new use will be less than the retail operations that were utilizing this property for decades before. The only reason for the request today for these variances, the two that have been noted, the parking and the one setback, is because more than 6 months transpired from the last commercial use. So that's one. And number two, and related to that, is to bring the property into compliance with today's setback and parking requirements and to reconcile the historic circumstances of the property with today's standards. Your professional staff report was very well done. I appreciate your staff. They were very professional and courteous to work with. I won't go through every detail, but essentially there are no city records that indicate any sort of nuisances that were due to a lack of parking in the past. It's been used for arguably more intense commercial uses for many years. Not granting the variance will deprive the owner from using the property to its full extent. Granting the variance will not confer any special privileges that to this owner that aren't already available to other similarly situated properties. The incoming tenant is very much improving the property without expanding it, installing professional modern day equipment, and it'll be a beneficial change for that subject site in that overall area. The criteria for granting the variance has been set forth with justifications in the staff report, as you'll see for the record, and I would submit that that is substantial competent evidence. It's consistent with your future land use map, it's consistent with your zoning district. And again, all we're doing is trying to reconcile the reality and circumstances on the property today with your current code. Obviously, if there's ever any expansion in the future, we'll have to meet your code at that time. With that, we would respectfully request an approval and available for any questions. We're here with the operators. And again, thank you for your time and consideration, and I'll stand by.
Okay, any questions?
I don't have any.
I have a question about the parking. It may be similar to the prior case we discussed. It looks like there is parking off street, but perhaps that parking is not listed within the survey of the lot. Can you speak a little bit to what that parking is?
There absolutely is, and thank you for bringing that up. I actually wanted to mention that. I didn't want to pack too much in. But yes, there are absolutely 6 slots that are available. And quite frankly, before this was brought to our attention, we just assumed they were part of the property, but they're on city right away. So there is technically 6 slots there that have been used and will continue to be used. One of the conditions in your staff report is, and we're totally agreeable with it, is for the owner / tenant to improve and maintain the city right away 6 slots, and we absolutely will. But yeah, those are definitely functional, very good parking spots, and have really served that little corner well over the years.
I have no other questions.
That was my question. Any questions? No questions? Okay, sir, you can step back. Do we have any speakers cards?
We do. We have a speaker's card from Robert Bunkley.
Go ahead and be sworn in, sir, and give your name and address.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
To help me God.
Please state your name and address.
Robert Bunkley. I'm at 315 13th Avenue North, almost across from the old building there. And I'm not aware of any parking other than city parking. Prove me wrong, but there's only city parking there. That's for the beach goers and people that. And I was going to put a pool in. You can look this up on the record. George Knight and Heather said I could not use that as any count to my property. So we went ahead and decided, well, we bought the property. We're going to make a home there, my wife and I. And maybe there's 2, but by the legal giving you room to back up and everything, there is no parking there. I would suggest you guys look at that very good. And I'd like that on the record, if you would, about the parking. Also, when Echo was there, they'd have these times where people would bring all this stuff and they'd back up in my yard, dump stuff and empty boxes and stuff from furniture they bought. And they finally even realized there's not enough room there and they got another place. They were good neighbors and I hated that, but that's my domicile. And I don't want that crap around my house, pardon my language. And there's also an issue, too, when you pull out on the street. When they all park up and down the street, all the way down to the glass place that used to be there, they're not there anymore. It's something else now. But when people park on that corner, you can't see. And there's been bad accidents there. And there's also a police record where I had talked with somebody in my front yard about dumping their stuff out. That if she did record, there will be a record of it. But no. Vehemently I don't care what it is. Maybe a church or a Bible store be about, where you have customers coming and going, during reasonable hours or something like that. But other than that, they probably just need to tear the building down. It's an old building. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Our next speaker card is Jason Gabriel.
Oh, that's it.
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like to address in the presentation?
Now, I'll just simply say, I think, in respect to Mr. Bunkley, I think there's a little conflation there with people that are coming there for the actual use versus people that are using, right away parking spots for the beaches or something else. I think there's some conflation there. That's number one. Number two, the alternative is it's been dark for over a year, and you can pull the police reports. There's a constant. We have now good new equipment, Ring cameras and whatnot, that are monitoring the site. There's been defecation. It's been used. The patio has been used as basically a meth lab. We're here to clean it up with commerce there. It'll bring the comings and goings of people that are there in good faith and not, let this place go to deterioration. So I think this is an improvement, not asking for any expansion or intensity expansion. In fact, it's a lesser intense use than the previous commercial uses. In the future, should it ever be, changed, modified, or, improved in any way where you're going outside of the footprint, it very well may need to be redone or what have you. We'll have to come back and either, develop it in line with your current day modern code or be back before you for some other relief. I'm not anticipating that, but anyway, we stand by the substantial competent evidence in the report, and thank you for your time. Available for questions.
Thank you. Okay, seeing how there's no more speakers cards and no more correspondence, I will now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for a motion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 25-100022 based on the testimony and substantial competent evidence provided. The request has met all standards for a variance outlined in section 34-572 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there a discussion?
I think it's admirable trying to make a reasonable use of an existing lot. I am concerned with the amount of parking that the development code does require, 14 spots. Acknowledging the existing parking does have 6 spots based on the testimony provided. That's still well shy of the off-street requirement. Acknowledging the testimony that the use case being recommended in the tenant coming in may not need 14 spaces. As we consider this motion, I think it's important to recognize that this carries beyond the next tenant, and the future tenants may, in fact, have a different business situation that would require more traffic and would lack the spaces. That said, in its existing space, it has functioned as a business with traffic. It has leveraged the spaces that are available in the city easement. I think it's admirable the applicant acknowledges that and is willing to maintain and provide those spaces and keep them in good standing. I think there's no perceivable other use of that easement outside of the city deciding to widen the road. There's nothing else around that would encroach, so I don't have a perceived risk that parking would go in any other direction than the use of visitors to this location. Those are the considerations I've kind of looked at. I would consider amended motion adding the requirement of the maintenance of those spaces if others are inclined.
I think it's a good idea if you want to go ahead and do that.
I'd like to amend the prior motion to approve BOA 25-100022 to include the condition that the tenant maintains the parking in the easement next to the property as outlined by the recommendations of city staff. Based on the testimony and substantial competent evidence provided, the request has met all standards for a variance outlined in section 34-572 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded for the amendment. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Okay, it's nothing that the applicant hasn't already agreed to. So we're going to vote first on the amendment. Can we have a roll call vote on the amendment, please?
Jennifer Williams?
Yes.
Matt Metz?
Yes.
Douglas Dell?
Yes.
Owen Curley?
Yes. Okay, so the amended motion now is for approval as amended. Any further discussion on that?
No.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jennifer Williams?
Yes.
Matt Metz?
Yes.
Douglas Dell?
Yes.
Owen Curley?
Yes. Your request for variance has been approved with the noted amendment. Can we call the next case?
Board calls case BOA 25-1000023, property address 520/522 First South Street, excuse me. Motion to consider sections 34-6153 Charlie 1 for a front yard setback of 9.5 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum, 34-6153 Charlie 3 for a rear yard setback of 2.8 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum, 34-6153 Golf for an accessory structure setback from the primary structure of 0 feet in lieu of 5 feet for a swimming pool, 34-702 Foxtrot for ribbon strip driveways in lieu of required paved drive with or without permeable materials for construction of a new 3-unit multifamily structure.
Okay, before we begin, does anybody have any ex parte communication?
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
And I've had none. The applicant, please come forward and be sworn in to their presentation.
Before we begin, the denial was based off of an old survey. So he did come and give us a new survey that provided parking with paid parking, but the survey he showed us before had the wheel strips. And that's the only reason why we denied it. But he did provide something nice and updated, and we do support this.
So there's going to be paved parking now?
Yeah, there's gonna be paid parking. It's
And
not.
did that add into the coverage?
Yes, they applied the coverage and everything. Nothing really changed.
But that's included in this, is it updated here, showing what the coverage is now with the paved parking? Because what
Yeah,
I read
right
said there
there.
wasn't paved parking here.
Yeah, that's what we thought before the previous survey he submitted. However, it was a mistake, and this is the survey he's using, and he'll explain that to me.
I can help to clarify after I'm sworn in.
All right. Please raise your right hand.
Yep.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Josh Nussbaum, 1355 Ocean Boulevard, Atlantic Beach, Florida. Hello.
Go ahead, sir.
I'll give a little bit of clarity on the update as well, but basically I'm looking to combine two residential multi-2 properties. They're an odd shape. It's like an L shape and a rectangular lot that have always existed in that odd sort of puzzle piece like formation. Combine them into one lot, remove what is currently a big eyesore of a boarded up building looking right out onto First Street, replace it with a beautiful 3-unit multifamily. I'm not looking for any additional lot coverage, so to clarify, the code allows for 65% coverage, which is what we will design and build to. The design is still sort of in its infant stages. I'm asking for a change in the front and the rear setback, which reflects the norms on the block. The next door neighbor has a variance for the exact same front and rear setback that I'm requesting. The current home in the property is very close to the rear fence. But again, I'll be removing that and building a new 3-unit building. Basically, the main challenge of the lot is that it's 62.5 feet wide, and the standard for these lots should be 75 feet wide. So it just creates a lot of complexities about how do you design a building to the full density allowed by the code. But how do you fit parking? And obviously parking is a big issue tonight. The current plan is to have one of the units access their parking off of First Street and the 2 other units access their parking off of the alleyway. So I've done sort of the best with this configuration as is in this drawing here. To clarify, I provided a sketch which was interpreted by the staff to be an indication that I was applying for a variance for ribbon strip driveways, which are no longer allowed by the new code. But that actually is not on my variance request. So you can sort of ignore that. And I think that that was actually the only aspect that was not, approved by the staff report. And one other small detail you'll see in there, I'm asking for a variance to place an accessory pool closer than 5 feet to the dwelling. And this is something that I'll work with an engineer and the builder to make sure is safe to do. The rationale is just, again, it's a small lot. It's very hard to configure. And so I would like for the allowance to be able to do that as we get into the details of the design. Thank you.
Just for my own clarification, the existing structures that are there,
Yeah.
You're obviously not building within their footprints. Do they have a front yard setback right now?
Yeah, so I can clarify. I think that I put together a huge presentation. I'm not sure if we have access to that with photos and the topography and so
I think
forth.
it's in our package.
Yeah, so it is. However, you can see it here. The only dwelling currently on the property is in the southwest corner of the property. The address for that is 522. There had previously been another house that was demolished at the, as I understand, at the front in the 520 lot. And so as it stands, these are two lots of record. The front lot, the tiny little rectangular lot, actually has a variance in place for, I think, a 7.4 foot front yard or something like that. I'm not quite asking for that. Yeah, so this here, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's down one more. Yeah, that. Is this the one you're talking about here?
Yeah, so this is the current building, exactly,
Okay.
and that's a current rear lot.
Okay, so the current
Rear
existing building has,
Two units. Is that what you're asking?
yeah, all right, so the existing building has, does it have a variance? I don't think so, right?
No, my understanding is that it predates.
Right, the former LDC. So it has a 3.2 foot rear yard, and does the structure, is it 10 feet for the front yard? Is it still 10 feet back? The structure 10 feet from the front?
I'm not sure. We'd have to look at the survey here because of the way that the properties are divided. Yeah.
So when I look at your hardship, I see that the standard is 75 feet
It looks like
and your width is,
page 7.
it said 65? in the
At 62 and a half.
But you said it's 62 and a half, so it's a little smaller than that, so it's like 12 and a half feet short.
Yes.
But your request is for over that amount, and if you were to calculate front and back. So, I mean, you could pretty much make it up in just what you're asking at the front, but then in the back, you're asking for 18 feet in addition.
Yeah, I'm
Correct.
asking for the same variance.
And
that
that's
was
so you can build 3 units instead of 2, what you currently have.
It is current. I'm not actually sure what it currently is. It's a boarded up building. I'm not sure how they had it
Read that it was
configured.
2.
Yeah.
Currently a 2-unit dilapidated structure that's boarded up.
Yeah. I think it's a ground floor and a second floor. Right. What I'm asking for is the same variance that was provided to the next door neighbor.
That was under a different land development code. right?
We
The land
also
development code changed.
We also look at each case on its own.
Understood.
So my question is then, what is it that you can build there without a variance request? Can you build on that lot? Are there two separate lots still?
It is currently two separate lots, yeah.
Then you're gonna put them together
Yes,
and then build on it.
right. So yeah, so what I'm looking to do is to fulfill the density that's allowed by the code for residential multi-2, which would be to build 3 units. And when you start to try to fulfill that 3 units and provide parking and not have parking in the, city easements and so forth, you end up with, it's sort of like a complicated puzzle to figure out with the parking and how you have egress into each unit. So that's how I landed on the request.
If you had planned on building 2 units, could you fit them without the variance request?
If I were to do 2 units,
Mm-hmm.
I could, but I wouldn't be fulfilling the density allowed by the code. So I'd be sort of hamstrung in developing the lot to its full potential.
Sorry, I just want to clarify the point you just said. I think you said fulfilling the density, and I think one of the criteria that we consider is that it's the minimum possible reasonable use of the property. So, not necessarily the maximum density in the code,
Mm-hmm.
a density that is reasonable. So, could you clarify your comment about fulfilling the density if you're saying
Sure.
that
Yeah.
the density of 2 units wouldn't be?
Yeah, and I don't know how your board looks at it exactly, but I look at it and I say, the maximum allowable, units per land size is a certain amount. And so I calculate for this lot, it's 6,250 square feet, which means is allowable for the building of 3 units. And so in trying to maximize the potential of the lot, I look to build 3 units. And in doing so, I see an opportunity for how to do it that conforms with the standards of the block and the next door neighbor. It's not extending, any more than the neighbor is, or extending further into the backyard than the neighbor is. And so I basically created a concept for how to do that. So I'm not sure exactly how the board looks at it, but that's how I would look at it.
Thank you.
So I'm still not. I'm sorry. I'm not clear on this one issue, which is I'm trying to go. We have these categories that we have to meet. Certainly, if E is if the variance requested is granted, will make possible a reasonable use of the parcel of land, building, or structure. There, I think you've explained how that's a reasonable use and fitting with the code. My question is that the conditions or circumstances do not result from the actions of the application. It would not be considered a self-imposed hardship. If we were to literally interpret the code and say there is a use on this property, you intend to put the 2 lots back together again, is there a use that would fit this property without a variance? I'm not sure I understand the answer to that question. Could you address that perhaps?
Could you ask it in another way?
Yeah.
Just so I
I'm
understand.
trying to figure out if this is a self-imposed hardship or not.
Yeah.
You have 2 lots, the small one and the larger one.
Right.
Your proposal is to put them together, and then we're going to grant you a variance based on this 3-unit development with the pools. My question is this: if you put them together, is there anything that you could develop that didn't require a variance?
Yes, but I wouldn't be but I wouldn't be building to the density potential of the lot.
And the density potential that you refer to is the maximum allowed density.
Yeah, I think it's how
Right.
most people who would develop would look at a lot, which is to say, how big is the lot?
I could
What-
fit 4 in there, or I could fit 3 in there, and then that I'm going to build to that, right?
Yeah, and to do it in a beautiful way, to take something that's an eyesore and in danger right now and to make it beautiful.
That's right. Yeah,
That's
and,
the idea.
And that, unfortunately, is not within our charge. Is to consider really what's there. Though, I mean, granted, the pictures I think speak for themselves, right?
Mhm.
That what you intend to do is going to be 10 times better than what's there now. But okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I just had a question on the parking. So existing parking there versus proposed parking. Can you talk a little bit about the difference?
Well, yeah, I would say that what I'm doing is so different as far as currently. I'm not actually sure how the parking would be configured for the current two lots as they exist. The idea is to have all parking on premise, to have garages, so that there's defined parking for each unit, and parking would not be on the city easement.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no other questions. Thank you, sir. You can step back.
Thank you.
Do we have any speakers cards?
We do. We have 2 speakers cards. We have M. Louise Lancy.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
M. Louise Lancy, 591st Street South, Jacksonville Beach.
Thank you.
Can you bend that microphone down a little bit so that we can make sure that we're capturing your voice? Thank you.
How's that?
Perfect.
Good evening. I'm here tonight to address the applicant's multiple requests for line setbacks. Let me begin by saying that I'm delighted, actually overjoyed, that 520, 522 may be transformed from its present slum-like state to something surely more visibly pleasing. However, I have concerns that the applicant is overreaching with 3 units on a small lot of 62.5 by 100, which requires multiple excessive variances to build these 3 units. We have an old Irish saying, pigs get fat and hogs get slaughtered. According to sections 34281 of the code, variances are deviations from the code. As you know, variances are granted when special circumstances or conditions exist which would result in undue and unnecessary hardships and would not be contrary to the public interest. Applicant proposes to build 3 units on 6,250 square foot lot. Applicant cites that section 34340 permits him to build 5.7 units according to his density calculations, which he was just discussing earlier. His position is, well, I could build 5.7 units, but I'm only building 3. We should all be happy. He should get a pass because he thinks he could build 5.7 according to that density calculation. Perhaps he should get a pass, but whether 3 units or 5.7 units, he still has multiple setback problems that interfere with the adjoining properties and the streetscape of First Street South. First, the rear setback reduction. I will not really address this variance because my neighbor will. except to say that the LDC goal should be to meet existing code of 20 feet, not a reduction to 2.8 feet. Why did the LDC establish 20 feet? So that Jack's Beach can grow from a tenement-like area to a residential community. Granting a 2.8 setback for the rear setback, which is less than the existing setback of 3.1, I believe, would be contrary to the public interest and the purpose of the LDC code. Side setback reduction. The code requires 10 feet for side yards. That's what I think. Maybe it's 5 feet. I'm not sure. Could you tell me?
If you want to conclude your thought, ma'am, your 3 minutes is up.
It is?
Yes.
I conclude.
Thank you. Do we have any other speakers?
We do. We have Alex Flores.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Alex Flores, 119 6th Avenue South, Jacks Beach, Florida, 32250.
Go ahead, sir.
Just based on my calculations of the two lots combined, I believe the applicant can develop a single-family home or a 2-unit townhome without the need of a variance. I believe he's going, just me assuming he's going with the multi-family dwelling to get the 65% lot coverage versus 35% for the townhomes. So I also believe that it is self-imposed hardship, claiming that it's not non-conforming, wanting to do the 3 multi-family development instead of a more reasonable size and appropriate development. So like he's going for the max 65%, but he's completely avoiding all the setbacks. I'm the house they're trying to do the 2.8 feet. So it's currently, I don't know what they listed it at, 3.1 or 3.2. That's always been drastically close to us. We've tried to put bamboo or whatever to avoid it. I mean, you've seen pictures. It's not a pleasant house. We also have 2 kids now, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So we just put a little playground in the back. So it's kind of weird with the windows right there. Also, the master bathroom is right there. So the windows we can see each other. So the previous tenants before that were renting upstairs, they bagged their window just knowing we were in agreement. This was pretty weird that we can see each other in our bathrooms. So I just think it's a self-imposed hardship, trying to do the max of the 65% and minimize all the setbacks possible in every direction. And yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers, Chris?
We have some email correspondence. So we have an email from John Shoemaker. It says, "Good evening. I'm writing to object to the proposed variance application for the above property address. The variance proposed in the application will present a unique burden on neighboring properties, including but not limited to increased foot and vehicle traffic from the additional structure and noise and sound pollution. In addition to the proposed setback lines will significantly increase the structure density of the immediate area surrounding the property, ruining the aesthetic appeal of the area. Likewise, by granting this variance, the Planning and Development Department creates an avenue for future variance applications that far exceed local zoning ordinances, such as this one. I am prepared to object to this proposed variance throughout the life of the application process. Please do not hesitate to contact me with questions. Thank you for the opportunity to state my opinion. Regards, John Shoemaker." We have an additional email correspondence from Mansoor Mohala. "Good afternoon. I am writing to oppose the proposed variance for property address 520/522. The changes would increase traffic, noise, and structural density, negatively impacting neighboring properties and the overall character of the area. Approving this could also set a precedent for future variances that exceed zoning limits. I plan to stay involved throughout the process. Please contact me if you have any questions. I am prepared to object to this proposed variance throughout the life of the application process. Please do not hesitate to contact me with questions. Thank you for the opportunity to share my perspective. Minsur Mo Mohala. No additional communication.
Okay, would the applicant like to come forward and address any of the points that were raised, either through the correspondence or through the public testimony?
Sure. Yeah. With all due respect, the neighbors have homes that have buildings that are basically right on the property line. My next door neighbor has a garage that she rents that I believe is 1 foot off of the fence line. So, with all due respect, I think that they're enjoying the use of their property in a way that they want me to not have with the approval of the board. And so, and then with regard to aesthetic concerns, we're going to make something really beautiful. With regard to foot traffic, it's a foot traffic neighborhood. It's a high density building lot, and I would like to use it for its intended purpose. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, you can step back, sir. I'll now close the public hearing and bring the matter back to the board. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA 25-1000023 based on the testimony and substantial competent evidence provided by the request has met all standards for a variance outlined in section 34-572 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
So I was looking through the Code of Ordinances, chapter 34, section 34-201, because I recalled that I had read specifically on this issue. Under sections A2, it states, in the interpretation and application of any provision of the LDC, it shall be held to be the minimum requirements adopted for the promotion of the public health, safety, and general welfare. So it's not the purpose of this interpretation when we're interpreting these. It's the minimum that we should be looking at, that it meets at least that, and there's a hardship in meeting the minimum. So, and it actually says if it's even more restrictive than the Land Development Code, then we would go with a more restrictive provisions. If it's a comprehensive plan is more restrictive than the Land Development Code, then we would stick with the one that's even more restrictive. So that's even more minimal. So we do have a bias in our interpretation of these code sections now. Under the new Land Development Code, it is a recent change. So that's what I would add for this purpose.
Ms. Beal, you're done. In reviewing the elements that were required to consider when granting a variance, I am stuck once again on the self-imposed hardship. Here we have an action where we have two separate lots that are going to be combined. That's the first action. Then that design requires a variance where the admission of the applicant is that there could be something built there, not this exact plan, but there could be something built there that would not require a variance. And so here we have, under the new Land Development Code, a self-imposed hardship. In wanting to reach for the higher density and not the minimum density, it triggers the requirement for a variance. That's all I have. Any other discussion? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Matt Metz,
No.
Jennifer Williams,
No.
Douglas Dell,
No.
Owen Curley.
No. Your request for variance has been denied. Can we call the next case, please?
The board calls case number BOA 25-100024, property address 510 South 3rd Street. Motion to consider sections 34-6143 Charlie 2 for a northerly and southerly side yard setback of 1 foot in lieu of 10 foot per side required. 34-6143 Charlie 3 for a rear yard setback of 9 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum. 34-702 Charlie for reduced parking area setbacks to 0 feet in lieu of 5 feet required. 34-745 all to waive landscaping requirements for construction of 2-unit multifamily dwelling.
Okay, the applicant come forward, please, to be, oh, I'm sorry. Do we have any ex parte communication?
I've had none.
I've had none.
I've had none.
Okay, and I've had none. Applicant, please come forward and
Great.
be sworn in. Give your presentation.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Michael Sittner. My address is 1 Independent Drive, Suite 1200, Jacksonville, Florida 32202.
Go ahead, sir.
This property has some interesting history. It was historically used as an office, and at some point, not my client, a previous owner, converted it to 5 multifamily units with or without permits. Not necessarily sure. I think the city considers it an illegal use. And so my client has now purchased the property. The interior is basically gutted, and my client is looking to do two multifamily units, which is a conditional use under the zoning, and proposes no exterior changes. So my client's really just looking to get this property back into actual compliance with the code, and all of the requests are just to account for the existing conditions. This building was built in 1948. My client didn't construct the building, and simply just trying to make reasonable use of what's been done to it historically. Thank you.
So is it that they're going to tear down the existing building and then build back into the footprint, or are they just going to convert what's there now?
Convert what's there now.
Any questions? Questions? Okay, do we have any speakers cards?
We do not.
Any correspondence?
No.
Okay, seeing no speakers cards and no correspondence, I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the board. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA number 25-100024 based on the testimony and substantial competent evidence provided. The request has met all standards for a variance outlined in section 34-572 of the Land Development Code.
Is there a second?
Second, sorry.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Based on the testimony provided, it's an existing structure, nearly half a century in place. They're looking to make a reasonable use of it. To that effect, I would like to make a motion to approve, or to amend the prior motion to make the approval of these variances contingent on the existing structure, such that if it's torn down, the variances are no longer applicable. So I make a motion to amend the motion to approve BOA 25-10024 to be contingent on the existing structure.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion on the amendment?
Sounds like a good amendment.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate given its history. Okay, seeing no discussion, can we have a vote on the amendment, please?
Jennifer Williams?
Yes.
Matt Metz?
Yes.
Douglas Dell?
Yes.
Owen Curley?
Yes. Okay, any discussion on the amended motion now? No? Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jennifer Williams?
Yes.
Matt Metz?
Yes.
Douglas Dell?
Yes.
Owen Curley?
Yes. Your request for a variance has been approved as amended by the board. Okay, can we call the last case, please?
The board calls case number BOA 25-100025, property address 1713 South 1st Street. Motion to consider sections 34-615 Echo 1 Charlie 1 for a front yard setback of 18 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum. 34-615 Echo 1 Charlie 3 for a rear yard setback of 11.5 feet in lieu of 20 feet minimum for construction of new urban single-family dwelling.
Okay, has there been any ex parte communication?
None.
I've had none.
I've had none.
And I've had none. The applicant come forward to be sworn in.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Hunter Faulkner, 701 Riverside Park Place, Jacksonville, Florida, 32204, on behalf of the owner and applicant. I'm here today on behalf of the owner seeking two variances to the subject property to construct a new single-family home under RM2 urban single-family zoning. The front yard setback, we're looking to reduce from 20 feet to 18 feet, and the rear yard setback from 20 feet to 11.5 feet. The lot itself is a substandard lot of record, is originally platted at or around 1925. It is substandard with the new current land development code for RM2. Thus, that is the reason for the hardship for the variance. We are seeking minimal reductions for the two setbacks in order to construct a new single-family home, very much similar in character to several properties to the south of the subject property, which enjoy similar variances to the land development code. The current structure on the property, it's not really visible from the overhead GIS, but for those of you who are familiar with the property, it's a very old, dilapidated structure that does need to come down, probably a safety hazard. It does have over 70% lot coverage as it's currently built, and it encroaches much further into the applicable zoning setbacks than the proposed new structure that the owner would construct. For those reasons, I will defer to the competent substantial evidence provided in the staff report, which supports approval and finds that the request does meet the standards applicable to variances under the new land development code, and I will stand by for any questions that the board may have. Thanks.
Okay, any questions?
It looks like between the front and the rear variances that you're requesting, it looks like about 10 feet altogether. 2 feet in the front and a little bit more than that, 8.5 feet in the back, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So it's about 10 feet altogether, and your lot size is 3,162, which the max or the minimum is 3,500. So you do have a hardship there.
Yes.
And is that do you have anything? Have you looked into seeing if you could build within the 20 feet front and back?
There is not there's not a viable path forward with a home plan from the owner that could go on the subject property. Even more so when is considered the properties to the south that have same zoning, that have enjoyed the waivers to the land development code for reduced setbacks, especially in the backyard. If you take a look at those, we find that there's precedence there for approving this. But no, to answer your initial question, there is not a viable site plan that could be put on the property that would allow for the strict enforcement of the code.
I don't see anywhere in the notes, either in the application or from staff. Do you know the width and length of the lot?
So it's in the survey. Give me 2 seconds. I think the length of the lot is 70 feet. And then the width, pardon me if I fumble through my packet here.
Believe it or not, I'm doing the same on this side of the table. These
Looking-
packets are
Looks like the width is 45 feet, if I'm correct, and the length is approximately 70. I think I'm reading this right.
I don't have any other questions. I don't know if anybody else.
Okay, no further questions? Do you get step back? I assume that there's no speakers cards
I have no speakers cards, no correspondence.
and no correspondence. Okay, I'll now close the public hearing and bring the item back to the board for discussion. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to approve BOA number 25-100025 based on the testimony and substantial competent evidence provided. The request has met all standards for a variance outlined in section 34-572 of the Land Development Code.
Second?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
It is an undersized lot. The applicant is making minimum reasonable use of that lot. If you look at the square footage that the lot is undersized relative to the width of the lot and the depth that's being requested, it puts them pretty close to the minimum of the lot coverage. I don't think it's an overreach. The bigger setback concern toward the rear, as evident by the satellite image, is coming to a parking lot, so there's minimal concern that it will be a disturbance to the surrounding community.
Agreed. I agree with you.
I have nothing to add.
Okay, can we have a roll call vote, please?
Jennifer Williams,
Yes.
Matt Metz,
Yes.
Douglas Dell,
Yes.
Owen Curley.
Yes, your request for variance has been approved. Thank you very much. Okay, next on our list is the planning department report.
Our next scheduled meeting is on June 17th, and we only have one item.
Now it's my favorite courtesy of the floor to visitors. Anyone? Anyone? Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?